this public land deal, this public land bill, which and now the current status of which is that it's not going to be in the reconciliation, or potentially not in the reconciliation bill, because the Senate parliamentarian has put the brakes on it. However, that might be reopened or revisited at another time. And I'm looking at the chat, and I see people in the chat, and Senator, I'm sure you've seen it online as well. I know you've seen it online as well, that there are some people who say, I like it because it helps with the debt, helps with the housing issue. I see a lot of other people saying, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to lose our public lands. I don't want to lose our national parks. This land is there for, throwing Teddy Roosevelt quotes in, this is for our posterity. This is for our beautiful lands for hunting and fishing and hiking and selling it off to developers, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure you've heard all of these criticisms as well. Walk me through how these federal plots that you're talking about are different from these national park areas that people are so concerned about.
Yeah, very, very different. National parks, national wilderness areas, forests, things like that, they've been designated and set aside for non-use. In the case of wilderness areas and national parks, for example, normally they have some type of unique quality that makes them especially beautiful, and they tend to be remote and detached from where people are living. Nothing like that, nothing included within that, could even be considered under this proposal. This proposal deals with, again, it's best to think of these as vacant lots next to existing established residential neighborhoods. And so an individual, anyone, could nominate this. It's patterned after a law that's been around for decades called the Recreation and Public Purposes Act that allows for purposes of establishing a trail or anything else deemed to be a public purpose. You can sell some federal land as appropriate for those purposes. In this circumstance, when somebody nominates a parcel, it initiates a review process within the U.S. Department of the Interior. And if the land is deemed suitable and appropriate for housing, and it doesn't run afoul of any of the many exemptions and protections that are in there, then it could ultimately be placed for sale and could be transferred to a unit of local government in that area, which would in turn oversee the process by which that could be developed into single-family residential housing, would be the preference under the bill. And they could do so at a what we sometimes refer to as an affordable rate. And it would allow individual families to purchase land for purposes of building a home. So when we
Senator,
look at what this does, rather than just listen to the scaremongering tactics of those who say you're going to destroy the national park system, look at the facts. This doesn't hit national parks or any of the other protected areas. These are vacant lots next to where people already live, next to utility hookups and connections, places where there are already roads. This is not something that you should worry about in terms of destroying the legacy of Theodore Roosevelt. Now, look, if you're one of those people who believes, as if a matter of first principles, as if an article of faith, that the current land footprint of the United States government is somehow written onto stone tablets and handed down from on high and designated to be perpetually in federal ownership, you're not going to like this bill if that's what you believe. But if you do believe that, I think that is a mistake. If, on the other hand, you believe that
just because we have a quick word, we're coming up on the break here,
families to be able to afford housing, to have a greater supply, particularly in areas where the federal government
would that be codified into the bill itself?
This
family ownership,
or
would that be codified into the bill? This maybe preferential treatment for families, going along with some of the family policies that President Trump and J.D. Vance have put out there as well.
Yes. And in that respect, it's good to think of these as freedom zone housing opportunities for families because of this preference built into the text for single family housing.